What is your take on sort of like where your place is now on the political spectrum as it exists today? And I ask that with the context being that maybe 5 years ago, I would have believed you to consider yourself very clearly on the left of the political milieu in the United States. And I'm guessing you probably still do, but maybe with some caveats that wouldn't have been there 5 years ago. I mean, I don't know. So maybe let's start there.
Yeah. The truth is, I don't really know myself. I don't have a clear sense of what the landscape is at the moment. I just know that if you go too far to the left or to the right, you reliably meet lunatics,
Hmm.
and so and that's it's become especially I mean, it's always been clear to me on the right, and so as you say, I always considered myself on the left, and I still describe myself as a liberal, but I've it's now experienced so much pain from what we think of as the far left, but the far left is so mainstream now. I mean, the geometry is all screwed up here because if you talk about the far right, I still think you're talking about the fringe. I mean, Trumpistan is its own problem, but when people talk about the extreme right, when you're talking about the people against whom Antifa would be demonstrating, well, then you're talking about I don't know what the actual numbers are, but it seems like a fairly small constituency. When you're talking about the extreme left, where you're meeting people who would deny that there's any difference between men and women, that who would accuse everyone in sight of being racist, and would also assert that race is the most important thing uh, going between human beings and can never be transcended or forgotten. When I mean the kinds of culture war issues I've stumbled into and gotten immense blowback from the left, that's a much more mainstream phenomenon. I mean, this, what the actual numbers are, I don't know. I mean, I've seen some polling that suggests it's not actually more than 8% of the population, but they've captured academia and journalism and tech to an amazing degree. So, I mean, it's all kind of warped because, obviously I find the extreme right generally scarier, but the mayhem and just the stifling of conversation created by the far left is something that I've spent more time focusing on of late. So I get a lot of pushback from the left, which seems to suggest that I'm a a person of the right, which I have never been. I mean, I'm a registered Democrat. I've never been tempted to vote for a Republican, and I've said as much as anyone against Trump, both before and after the election. So, that's where I am.
Let's see if we can look at some of those elements of the left that you talk about, because what I've found in just generally being aware of your work, but then in sort of more specifically preparing for this conversation, what I found is that a lot of your critiques of what is colloquially known as the left, I tend to agree with, but where I think maybe we disagree is the importance and influence that maybe they have.